Okay, you can.
Okay. Is an approach to language education in which learners are made aware of the grammatical form of language features that they are already able to use communicatively. It is contrasted with focus on form, which is limited solely to the explicit focus on language features, and focus on meaning, which is limited to focus on meaning with no attention paid to form at all. For a teaching intervention to qualify as focus on form and not a focus on form, the learner must be aware of the meaning and use of the language feature before the form is brought to their attention. Focus on form was proposed by Michael Long in 1988. The, the, four, the focus on form model of practice introduced by Bahari was prepared and contextualized based on effectiveness of base instruction for its potential for incidental and pre-planned learning. The four practice model have proved effective in catering for learners non-linear and dynamic motivational factors at individual level and taking advantage of the co-affordance toward developing listening and speaking skills. In keeping with Nasahi and photos, the focus on four is considered as an optimal approach for learning which aims and mimics the best features of classrooms. Learning with computer assist learning by using code tools and applications to facilitate learning process. In contrast to previous learning practice model sharing the feature of generality at group level. The focus for practice model address the non-linear and dynamicity of individual difference during learning process. This is response to the call for integrated complex dynamic system perspective towards implementing interactive collaborative co-environment under the for construction practice model. On the one hand, for meaning and communication are addressed as critical learning components, and on the other hand, individual learner motivation is catered to by selecting learning materials with respect to the knowledge and dynamicity of individual learner in a systematic but flexible framework. The concept of focus on form was motivated by the lack of support for the efficacy of focus on form on the one hand and clear advantages demonstrated but instruct language learning over uninstructed learning on the other. The research conflicting with focus on form has been wide wide-ranging learning typically acquire language not all at once. In most of the stages, the learning interlanguage pass-through will exhibit no native language form. Furthermore, the progression of the stages is not clean. Learner may use language feature correctly in some situations but not in others. Others may exhibit U-shaped learning in which native use may temporarily revert to no-native use. None of these findings sit well with the idea that students will learn exactly what you teach them when you teach it. In a review of the literature comparing interest with the unstructured language learning, Long found a clear advantage for instructed learning. Both the rate of learning and the ultimate level reaches an important finding that support long view came from foreign language immersion programs in Canada. Even after a student has had years of meaning-focused lesson filled with comprehensible input, their spoken language remains far from native-like with many grammatical errors. This is despite the fact that they could speak fluently and had native-like listening ability. For focus instructions, refer to any pedagogical practice aimed at drawing learner attention to language for the four may consist of phonological sounds, morphosyntactic word for word order, lexical, pragmatic discourse, or orthographical aspect of language. The term owes its origin to a distinction between focus on form, where a set of predetermined features, article, verb, tense is taught and practiced, and focus on form, where attention to language is integrated into primarily communicative activities. FFI was originally considered equivalent of focus on form, but its definition has expanded to exclude plan focus on structure expected to expose challenge in communication. Much contemporary research of FFI focus on how different aspects of FFI impact learning. These include comparisons between the benefit of focus on form versus focus on form and implicit versus explicit attention to language. Although there is more evidence in favor of explicit techniques, researchers have not a need for more investigation of effective implicit instruction techniques and of effective measures of implicit knowledge. Other issues motivating FFI research include whether it is more effective or necessary for certain forms that for others is timing with respect to learners' developmental readiness, use with younger learners, the impact of individual learner difference, and social and contextual factors that may influence teacher and learner perspective on FFI. To teach all the students according to today's standards, teachers need to understand subject matter deeply and flexibly, so they can help students create useful cognitive map, relate one idea to another, and address misconceptions. Teachers need to see how ideas connect across field and to everyday life. This kind of understanding provides a foundation for pedagogical content knowledge that enables teachers to make ideas accessible to others. Schumann introduced the phrase pedagogical content knowledge and sparked a whole new wave of scholarly article on teacher knowledge of their subject matter and the importance of this knowledge for successful teaching. To theoretical framework, teachers need to master two types of knowledge: content, also known as deep knowledge of the subject itself, and knowledge of the curricular development. Content knowledge encompasses what Bronner cites in Schumann. Code structure of knowledge, the theories principles and concepts of a particular discipline, especially important in content knowledge that deals with the teaching process, including the most useful forms or representing a communicating content and how students best learn the specific concept and topics of a subject. If beginning teachers are to be successful, they must wrestle simultaneously with issues of pedagogical content or knowledge, as well as general pedagogy of generic teaching principles. Schumann created a model of pedagogical reasoning which comprised a cycle of several activities that a teacher should complete for good teaching, comprehension, transformation, instruction, evaluation, reflection, and new comprehensions.